a very magical week for the box office with the release of a magical talking teddy bear and Magic Mike. Only difference is one is actually magic, while the other one's just some guy shaking his junk in your face. I'm just glad it wasn't in 3D. Alright, first off, let's talk about Ted. Ted is directed by Seth MacFarlane and is about a young Mark Wahlberg who, when he's 8 years old, does not have any friends. He receives a teddy bear for Christmas and wishes on a shooting star that this teddy bear would come alive and be his best friend forever. Of course, the teddy bear does, and then 30 years later, these two are still living together with Mark Wahlberg having a very minimal job, always smoking pot and drinking beer, and yet is somehow dating Mila Kunis. That sounds like the perfect life. So since Seth MacFarlane both directed and wrote this, and he is the creator of Family Guy, American Dad, The Cleveland Show, this film is very similar to Family Guy. So the comedy is very much like Family Guy. It's full of pop culture references, poking fun at celebrities, pushing the line of what they can and cannot do. And so if you are not a fan of Family Guy, then you probably will not be a fan of Ted just because it uses that same formula that Family Guy is famous for. But that's what worked for me, was the comedy. I had so much fun with this film, laughing non-stop from beginning to ending. The pacing was phenomenal. I did not feel bored at all. I kind of wish the film kept going. It's definitely a fantastic comedy. It's filled with pop culture references from 80s, 90s, up to modern day celebrities. It's a phenomenal comedy. Something that Family Guy does that's also in Ted is that the characters talk about a situation and then it jumps to that situation, kind of like a flashback. Now, Seth MacFarlane is able to pull this off phenomenally, especially in this film and in his animated shorts as well. And now this is something that really annoyed me about the recent Ghost Rider film, is that they tried to do that, but with Ghost Rider it just felt really stupid, out of place, and dumb, and that's one of the main things I really hated about Ghost Rider. But Seth MacFarlane was able to take that same idea, put it into a film, and make it work. It was funny. It didn't feel out of place because it was Seth MacFarlane. So on the opposite side of the comedy being great, there are jokes in there that fall flat. There are jokes in there that aren't that funny, and most of them are based around fart jokes. Now, for me, fart jokes just seem like a cop-out. They're just something that you can throw in there that you hope people will laugh at and that you can make up for later. Now, they rehash the same idea over and over and over with these to the point where it just gets old, like, oh, you're doing another one of those, huh? It wasn't funny the first time, it's not funny the fourth time. Well, this film is funny, I loved it, I definitely enjoyed it, but it wasn't perfect. But I am going to give Ted a 9 out of 10. I definitely recommend it if you're a Family Guy fan, definitely recommend it as a comedy in general. Go check out Ted. Now, Magic Mike. So throughout my experiences in the theater, I have been the only one in the theater before. I have been the only one in the theater that has known my multiplication tables, and I've been the only one in the theater that hadn't had a high school diploma at the time. But this is the very first time in the very first movie where I've been the only person in the theater with, well, you get the idea. Alright, so let's talk about the plot of Magic Mike. It didn't have one. Basically, it just follows, I don't even know what, I don't even know what, this film, it didn't have a plot at all. I guess if you're following Channing Tatum's character, he's a stripper at night trying to make money so that he can start up his own furniture business. That's pretty much it, with a bunch of other characters thrown in other situations based around a love story. The plot is absent in this film. Now, the only reason I wanted to see this film was for Channing Tatum's performance in it. 21 Jump Street, he was phenomenal in that. That movie is such a great comedy. I think it's one of my favorite comedies of 2012, as well as The Vow. I surprisingly really liked The Vow because of his performance. And when I heard that he went from those two to Magic Mike, And when I found out what Magic Mike was, I felt that he was going to revert back to where people hated him, that he wasn't going to be this great actor because he's just taking these kind of films. And so I wanted to see if he could do a great performance and still gets me invested in his character and still like him. And he did. That's the only reason I liked this film, was because of his performance. I didn't care about any of the other characters in this film. Whenever Channing Tatum wasn't on screen, I could care less. The pacing of this film was really bad. I could not sit still. I was constantly looking at my watch. I couldn't get invested in anything other than Channing Tatum's character. But there are some great camera angles, some great lighting in the film, and it's definitely worth at least checking out once. Actually, one other reason to see this film is not for the movie itself, but to see how all the women react that are in the theater. I was sitting in the very back corner of the theater, just kind of like trying to hide it, and I was just surrounded by a whole bunch of other females in the theater. They were invested in the character because they were sitting there screaming at the screen, "Take it off, oh baby," like all this other stuff. That I had more fun watching the audience react than I did about the movie itself, and I don't think that's how a movie should be. So overall, Magic Mike is definitely average. It's not the best movie, it's definitely forgettable. I will give it a 5 out of 10. It's definitely worth checking out just for the directing style, in my opinion, Channing Tatum's performance, and as a science experiment to see how your local females act in the theater. Let me know in the comment section below how you felt about these two films. Did you enjoy them? Do you have problems with them? Do you feel the same way I do? Let me know. As well as if you like this review, please hit that subscribe button. I really appreciate it. As well as leaving me a rating. I really appreciate that as well. My name is Mikey, and this has been another episode of Colossal Analysis, and I will see you guys next time. I'm not even talking about kids my age. No, there were kids my age, and there were women in there that were probably 40 and over. They were sitting there screaming at the screen.